everybody. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Beside me is Brit. How are you, Brit?
I am well, just the usual angry as the podcast starts thing. So someday
One
it'll
day.
work. Did you hear
That's all
that intro
right.
music or did it come through?
I
Is
enter
that just on
music.
me?
I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah, Brit's hearing things now, people. I don't know.
No, not
I,
I'm
I
not
wasn't paying
hearing
attention,
things.
honestly, so there could have been something, and I honestly have no
No,
idea.
I just thought I always heard the intro music, but maybe I don't know. Maybe that's just one more way that my phone's trying to, or my computer wants me to
There you
feel the
go.
hate.
There you go. Okay, well,
Happy
before we get
first day of
started,
training camp day.
gosh, I know. I'm
It
so
is
excited.
here.
It is
Yes.
here, yes. But before we get into that, let me quickly do some plugging real quick. And before we get started, don't forget everyone to like and subscribe. Follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can follow them on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and then at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Okay, Brett, now we can start jumping for joy because hockey is back. And preseason, if I'm not mistaken, starts on Saturday.
Yes, today is like
Oh, yeah.
I think today was media day for training camp.
Yes.
Um
That's right. There's 6 teams going at it: Blues and Stars, Penguins and Sabres, Jets and Wild. Not the Avs, but at least there's hockey going. I mean, for
yes.
crying out loud, it just, for some reason, this offseason has just felt like the longest
Because we
offseason
didn't get
on
any
planet
fun
Earth.
signings. Like there's been nothing fun to talk about. Honestly, like
That's true.
mid-November is going to be like our off-season excitement that we missed out on.
That's probably right. I think for me, I think it took as long as it did because I'm just so anxious for Gabe Landeskog to come back.
I know.
I
I
think
am
I think
too.
I think that's my most excited part of this particular hockey season. Not only because Utah has a team and they're right next door, but
I know. I keep forgetting that you guys have like way more excitement in like
that's
um
another thing. It's like not every day a franchise rolls into your state.
no, I
So
keep waiting for you to just say that you're outie and
no,
you're gonna be
no,
all back on Utah. Which so
no.
it sounds like they hinted at that the fans have spoken loudly about what they want. So Yeti is what I'm
That's
assuming.
my guess. I'm assuming it's going to be called the Utah Yeti. It rolls off the tongue really nice. I mean, I'm
It
not going to lie,
does.
but
No, I think that if they had gone with anything else, there would have been enough uproar that it.
mhm.
Did they even do the second round of voting?
They went through some rounds of
Okay.
voting.
I
So they
thought there
went
was
they
one
went
more
from
for
like
some
20
reason.
to, I think, might have gone 20 to 6 to then the winner, I think, is
Okay.
how it went.
I don't know why I
But
thought that.
no, I mean, I'm glad they left it up for the fans to decide, which is nice. Um,
Oh,
and
for
like I said,
sure.
for a temporary name like Utah Hockey Club, I mean, it was Sean Dursey that was getting interviewed by the Bar Down guys. I think it was the Bar Down guys. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, honestly, with my soccer background, I like the name Utah
I do
Hockey Club.
too.
Like, and I'm
That's
like,
what I was saying.
and that's
It's
the thing.
got
It's
a
like,
good old school feel.
and people I know, and it's like, obviously a nickname is going to come, right? And you
Yeah.
can't just, for crying out loud, you have 4 months to throw a team together, front office together, jersey together, colors together. It's like you can't do everything in that span of time. So I think it's kind of a unique, I like to look at it as like a unique time to be alive where it's like, hey, where were you when there was the Utah Hockey Club? Like that would have been
Yeah, for
pretty
sure.
cool. Pretty cool. But nonetheless, I mean, so that kind of also added to the anticipation. Going to go to a lot of games, going to rock my Avs gear when the Avs come. We were going to both of those games, that
Oh,
much.
how weird is that going to be?
Honestly, I don't think it's going to be that weird just
I
because
think that I think that it'll be a rivalry though at
I
some
think
point,
it,
don't
I think it
you?
will. And that's kind of where it puts me in a tough spot because it's like there's the Avs who I've been a fan of my entire life.
Yeah.
Well, as long as I
And
can,
see, I'm
as long
like
as I've had a fandom, but
totally not opposed to people having a number two team. Like the Caps have always been my number two
yeah.
team. Just sucks that they're in the same
that
everything.
they're gonna be bitter rivals at some point in time, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I've always said, that like I just need a new East Coast team because it's
Yep.
my East. I don't have to feel as guilty, but I think we're actually going like all in on the Sharks for our number 2, which should line
That's who
up
it's been for
perfect.
me.
I'd say that the Sharks will probably get good as the Avs taper off, So as
Probably.
Celebrini hits his pink, we can cheer for him without feeling guilty because the Avs are
There you
awful.
go. There you go. Hallie has reminded me it's Empty Netters Pod, not Bar Down Pod. So
Oh my God, I love
thank you
Empty
for
Netters
correcting me.
so much. Those are like, honestly, their interviews, like, did you watch their Ross Colton ones? Their interviews are
They're
so
just
much better than
super
everyone else. They're
chill.
so sweet and
Yeah,
funny and just like actual hockey dudes. I don't know if you ever listened to the story about where they were gonna be in this like ice skating concert at something, some big like festival or something, and it was just a whole huge debacle, and they ended up not even like doing it, I don't think, but it was really funny because they were basically like figure skating. Um, but yeah, they're just like so if anybody hasn't listened to the Ross Colton interview, they get so much personality out of their interviews. They're just, oh my God, they're so funny.
they're a lot
They're
of fun.
brothers.
Yes,
Yeah,
something like
they're
that.
two of my favorites. Them and What Chaos are like, I am almost
Hmm.
more dedicated to them than I am any uh Colorado stuff at this point because they're so funny. I don't know.
They are. They are. But speaking of Yeti, that was kind of be our little quick pickup news bit is that Alexander Georgiev has a new
Yeah,
mask.
that's
And
kind of
Brit, as a
funny.
goalie, I'm assuming. Okay, so is there a certain? Is it like an underground network of goalie mask painting? Is there like some kind of
So there's
something
like,
with
it
that?
can be really expensive. I've got dudes in my beer league that pay like thousands of dollars. Hunter Miska, who played goalie for us, his dad is actually like one of the best all-time helmet painters. He painted all of the most like the Belfour, is it the Potvin masks? All of the most famous iconic ones that you can think of.
Sure.
His dad probably painted them. They just live right over in Minneapolis too, so that's kind of cool. But a lot of people actually, you can order wraps, like vinyl wraps that they sent you, design them.
Oh,
And then they
really?
mail them to you and you put them on yourself, and a lot of them look really good. Of all my stuff that I like absolutely love, I have yet to have like a perfect painted goalie mask. I had one that was pink with like airbrush white on it, all
Well,
through
that
high
sounds
school.
pretty good.
But in my adult life, since I got my new helmet, I just haven't had like the time, and I'm so indecisive that I can't settle on paying
There's
for one.
just
But
so many options to pick from.
yeah, well, and Georgiev said that he has a couple more masks coming in, but it's kind of funny that he went so hard on the Yeti because I don't view him as a confrontational person at all. But it's
No,
kind of like he's
and I
just like
think
peeing on the whole Yeti concept to call it his.
and that's see, and, well, and that's another thing that will just add fuel to this rivalry. I know we've touched on it a few times. It's like you're gonna take everything but the color scheme, it seems, of the old
Yeah. Well,
Avalanche,
we
because
may
I'm
as well.
sure,
It's.
you know,
I'm curious to see if they go like cartoony on it or if they're gonna go like legit, like, you know what I mean, kind of
I don't know.
hardcore
Yeah,
goalie.
I mean, and they could throw a complete 180 at us and be like, "Hey, it was the Outlaws," But Yeti, I think, that's the only one that's been discussed. So I mean, I think they
Yeah.
gave away the name without giving away the name.
He seemed
But
to want to, unless he's just trying to be a tease, but he seemed to kind of want to
could
make it
be,
pretty clear that that's what it is. But they might just have to figure out some stuff before they can actually,
yeah.
go all out.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, I think Georgiev's mask. To me, it kind of reminded me of when Landeskog was doing his presser, and he had the big foot, the Yeti foot on his hat.
Yeah.
Because, like, to me, and again, this is coming from me, a Utah guy. I'm like, to me, that's Colorado's stuff. Like, yes, I know it was their old branding. They walked away from it. I get
Yeah.
that, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
like Denver and Colorado people. That's like nostalgia, So it's like to me, it's theirs, but yeah. I'm not the connoisseur of logo and branding, so I guess
Yeah, and
whatever.
you have to wonder if it is Yeti, if they had to do some kind of like consulting with the Avs that they're not going to go
They,
full blown, because it
they
would have been
might have.
harder for them to pick that if we would have just decided to go all in on doing Yeti. You know what I mean? If we would have done a
Yeah,
third jersey
because I
lately.
know like and exactly, I think you're right. If we had like a Yeti foot third jersey
Which I
or
wish
Howler
we
was still
freaking would. I've
around.
never heard a single person that wasn't like screaming off the rooftops to bring
Oh my
back the Yeti. I
gosh.
don't think that there's a soul that doesn't absolutely love the Yeti.
Yeah, and I think it's with merit, like you could have done that for a reverse retro. You could have, or if had Adidas stuck around,
Anything,
but
literally anything.
anything,
How cool would it have been for Tahoe?
Oh, that would have been so cool. That would have been so
Yeah,
cool. Just kind of a cool one-off jersey or whatever, like just something.
yeah.
Um, but either way, I think Georgiev's mask. This is where kind of I wanted to start to dive into a little bit of some Avalanche related stuff. Georgiev. So here's my superstition, my hockey superstition, as we all have, was that Georgiev's helmet was one of the reasons he was winning or losing games.
Really?
And it
Was it
sounds
the micro
so
dot one?
stupid. It's the microdot one. But
Mm-hmm.
whenever he was wearing, oh, hang on, let me make sure I have this right.
Was it
Whenever he was
his?
wearing the color ones, so the red and the maroon, the burgundy and blue color ones, he would lose those games astronomically. Whereas
Weird.
when he
How
was
did I
doing his,
not notice that?
at least that's what I was picking up on. And then when he was wearing his silver
Mm,
and white and whatnot, those games he would perform just fine. Whether win or lose, he would still do a good job. So that's where I'm
interesting.
like, oh, good. I'm so glad he's got a new mask so he can just brush it all aside. Doesn't have
Yeah.
to pick. But
He's
that's
playing for
that's
his
my
ass this year, whether he's staying or going. So he better find some way, whether it's a helmet or like a rain dance, he better manifest it somehow. I don't
that's
care. I don't
right.
know what Russians do, like make some kind of sacrifice or something, but
There's something.
homeboy's gotta get a contract somewhere. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think it's gonna be with us, but somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. But either way, jumping into kind of the main part of the episode today, the Avalanche are playing hockey this coming week, and I
Yes.
am so ready for it to happen because there's a lot of interesting opportunities for a lot of these young guys to come up and maybe make a name for their own. Like, I don't know if you were paying attention much to what the Avalanche were doing, but there were a couple guys that caught my attention. Grab it
Apparently,
real
there.
fast.
Just thank God that we can do training camp talks and that we don't have to spend an hour droning on about the rookie tournament. I don't know how much you want to dive into that, because the rookie tournament, which we all know,
Yeah.
the cost of winning is comes at the cost of your rookies, like your pipeline. We sucked ass really bad. We didn't win
Yeah.
a single game. Um, and it's kind of weird because it sounds like the people that we thought were going to be the stars, we
Mm-hmm.
had like an unexpected one, Ivan. And he's going
Ivan.
to be the
Yep.
main talk going right into main camp as well.
And that's one of the three guys that I was looking at as far as like maybe they might not make the opening roster on opening day, but I could see them making a case for some call-ups should injuries occur or just play not be as good or something like that. Ivan was one of the guys that I was like, as I was
Well, and
kind
the
of
big
watching
thing
him,
is
and
Bednar, Ivan was, excuse me, I got the hiccups. He was
yeah,
undrafted.
yeah,
Jared Bednar single-handedly picked him, and we know how Bednar is when he likes a dude. So if that's one of his guys, and he's catching the eye of everyone else in the
yeah,
stands, scouts that aren't even with the Avs, we're coming to watch Richie and walking away talking about Ivan, which it helps when you have that name to catch attention and then be able to maintain it with your game.
yeah, no kidding. But yeah, so Ivan was one of the guys that to me I was like, he may not be. I mean, he was playing his heart out, like just even for like a
Right.
rookie camp, he was going all out. It was great. It was really fun to watch. But I was thinking, if he gives this same type of energy, and if he claims he's ready for the big leagues and stuff like that, I could see maybe him getting a nod should someone in the fourth line get injured or something like that. I
Which
was
is
thinking,
inevitable.
which more than likely is going to happen. Let's be real. But I was thinking he could probably be one of the guys that, should everything kind of
Yeah.
roll his way, and that was a pretty good direction, a step forward for sure. I
Yeah,
could see
it sounds like
Ivan.
he's going to be the first in line to be called up. If he's
Yeah,
not on the roster, wonder, when you take into consideration who might be out to start with, if Lekanen, sounds like he might not be there at the start of the season,
that's right.
depending on how LOC's return is. He just brings the grit and the hard work and the like adaptability in his game that Bednar prioritizes in who he makes his call ups. You know how he picks his dudes,
Yeah,
which sucks for guys like Malinsky and Poland. You got to wonder, are they getting pushed back down again? Because
potentially.
with the PTO with Bellemare, sometimes I kind of struggle with the fact that we seem to not offer much opportunity to the younger guys, especially when they're college free agents and they were lottery picks. Granted, we've already lost Ben Myers. Getting Ben
Mhm.
Myers and Poland and Malinsky, those are huge signings. It was a lottery type thing that they chose us, and we haven't utilized
Yeah,
any of them. Granted, they do like Malinsky and Poland, but they never seem to establish any like stability on the roster in filling in for injuries or in any fashion that feels like it's fair or putting them in a place to gain any kind of positive, standing with the NHL team.
yeah, and that's kind of been. I mean, the MO that the Avalanche have had for the last, I guess, however long, 4 seasons at least, 3 seasons, is instead of doing this developing talent from the farm teams, and so to say, they go out and grab these seasoned veterans, which gives
Right.
people like Ben Myers or Martin Cowd or even, all these guys where they had all kinds of promise. They had all kinds of, I don't know what else to say, like just discipline. I'm hearing an echo. Is that me? Oh, maybe it wasn't. Is that better? Oh, nope, you're kidding.
Okay. Can
I'm
you
so
see?
confused.
Sorry,
Yes,
that was awful.
I was starting to hear an echo. I was like, what is happening? Is it my end? Like, I thought everything was fine. I
Yeah,
shut my phone
no,
off. I
and
was
that's
like,
kind of become like a mainstay discussion in Avs, topics outside of like beat writers, local beat writers, is that the Avs have a poor pipeline. We're always at the bottom end of the pipeline, but if you look, it correlates usually directly to the teams that have won Stanley Cups within the last 5 years or who have ambitions to win.
Mhm.
Like Dallas, when you consider the guys that they just graduated, their pipeline is going to go downhill soon too. I mean, that's
Yep.
just, it's the nature of, it's like a flow. It's
picking and choosing what kind of team you want to be. And because, like, for example, you have teams like Utah, you have teams like San Jose, that their prospect pool is just vast, and just you're going to have so much developed talent that you're going to just have it seeping
because
out of the
that's where
woodwork,
all of their talent is. It's in their
Yeah.
prospects right now.
Yep, exactly. So in the coming years, it's going to be the San Jose's and Utahs and other of those teams that have developed these prospect pools. They're going to be the ones now that come 5 years or whatever, they're going to be the ones that you're going to need to
And
keep
that's
an eye out.
as we, as our window closes, we'll invest more within our pipeline and we'll have the higher pipeline. And I mean, that's part of the reason that our prospects, our rookie team got rocked. And part of it too is the prospects that we do have, we have invested a lot in and didn't play a whole lot because we anticipate they'll play NHL games. So they are top tier prospects and they're not spending their time at the rookie tournament because they're starting at training camp, regular camp. So
Exactly. But speaking of prospects, there's one that did catch my eye. And then I'll go into one more after this, but it's a defenseman by the name of Sean Behrens.
nice.
Now he is interesting. Now there wasn't any like big wow factor per se, but I was seeing now. this is me saying this. I was seeing little glimpses of Tyson Berry in
Yeah.
him, and obviously
His
everybody
stand
knows
do or
my
die for him. So thank God.
exactly, and so and everybody knows my giant love for Tyson Berry. There were just little things like that when there was like times on a power play that he was quarterbacking or something like that. I was like, he is moving this puck and kind of directing traffic really, really well.
Yeah. And he
You
needed
know,
to. We have been talking about Sean Barron. Seems like Sean Barron and Jean-Luc Foudy have been prospects in our system since I started watching the Avs as a baby. And
he's
this
been
is
around
Sean
for a bit.
Barron's first rookie camp. I mean, he's
I
been
believe
injured
so.
every single one.
I believe
Is it
so.
injury? And then just with school, he hasn't.
He just has not been able to go to these rookie camps. But this time, I don't know what changed, but he caught my attention for some
I
reason.
think it's because it truly is. He needs to show up, or it's probably time for us to move on, or
Exactly.
permanently
Yep.
delegate him as an AHL player.
And that kind of jumps right into my next one that I was going to say is Jean-Luc Foudy, which we talked about. Now, Jean-Luc, I know he is capable of playing in the league. In fact, he scored a goal last year when they called him up. But here's
such a bad luck, like black cloud. He came
really
in
is.
shifts with the Avs before did he break his arm? Was that what it was last time?
It was something like that, a wrist, an arm. I can't remember which.
And that season, we were so desperate for someone to show up, and he just has such bad luck. And I love him, and I just desperately want him to make it.
Yeah. And so, like, this to me is he's kind of the next Martin Kaut kind of player where it's like, dude, we're giving you chances, but at the same time, I feel like the Avs aren't really giving him much favors by grabbing all this veteran talent and just, restocking the magazine, so to speak. So I don't know, but
and that's what the Bellemare PTO feels like, such a statement that we don't trust any of them.
Yeah.
And that we don't quite trust like LOC to fully quarterback the penalty kill. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just a weird statement, and it's hard to figure out what exactly you take away from it, because I can't imagine that Bellemare is coming here to do a PTO with the plan of being, a healthy scratch most nights.
Yeah. And I think that's it. So I think you nailed it right on the head. This is kind of just a trust issue from the organization side of thing. And honestly, it goes to show we just can't seem to dig any deeper in our prospect pools. But nonetheless, there are those gems that you can dig up. For example, to me, that's Sam Malinsky, right? Like he's a guy that I'm like, dude, he can be yours at least third pairing D-line and go out there and go.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there's just something not that just, I don't know if it's communication, trust, whatever it is, just not going all the way through the Avalanche pipeline, which is so strange because I like how Sam Malinsky plays.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Okay, so let's kind of go real quick.
Are you still hearing an echo?
A faint one? Are you doing like your audio through your phone, but your visual through your camera? Is that what you're doing?
No. I don't know if you can remove the third person. Let me see.
I probably could. I hope that doesn't remove you, but that might have removed her. She'll come back. But we'll keep on rolling. So the Avalanche have 6 preseason games in which they have to shake off the cobwebs, so to speak, kind of get things put together and stuff like that. So preseason is a very interesting time because you're never going to see, at least not at the very beginning, going to see these players all together. For example, you might have a squad that's McKinnon, Makar, and say Lehkonen, and then you'll have another group that's Rantanen and Middlestat and all those guys. And the hard part about it is you won't be able to see the full squad until closer toward the regular season. So these first, however few games, you're only going to see maybe part of the squad. Britt, do you think that's going to be kind of the same?
Yeah, I mean,
here?
it just feels like we're just winging it. I mean, we whatever we're going to see now, this team is going to be in such flux until November, until we know about Nichushkin and Gabe Landeskog. It's just going to be next man up. I would imagine it could be messy. I'm not going to worry until Thanksgiving is what I'm giving, myself to feel comfortable in the decisions that they're making and that they won't change immediately. It is tough because guys like Malinsky, and I don't know about Ivan, but a lot of our guys that we would want to move up and down do have to go through waivers now. So I don't know how we're going to start it. I don't know. Does Kovalenko get does he still get like the 10 games this year? Or I don't know.
That's a good question.
There's a lot of really confusing aspects to this. Fortunately, they did come out and say, I don't know if you wanted to discuss it separately, but like in media day, they did sound very confident in Gabe Landeskog being back and Nichushkin coming back. I mean, they specifically said that they weren't spending that money. They don't have the exact details for Nichushkin as to whether he'll be able to join them on the ice in practice, but it sounds like they specifically said that essentially they are planning and molding this current team around the anticipation that Gabe and Nuke will be back earlier than later. So
yeah. And kind of side note, I did quite enjoy the comments from Bednar and McKinnon about Nichushkin.
Yeah. I mean, Devon Tays, Mikko Rantanen, they all said we want him to be healthy and happy, and we are going to welcome him back, and we want him to be the best he can be, and we're glad to have him back. So they're at least good at faking it if they don't believe it, but at least they know, they acknowledged how desperately this team needs him. And they're willing to put it aside, at least to enough to save face and to just play the game. You know what I mean?
I think, and that's exactly right. I think it's, and because like, hats off to them, honestly, for being kind of the bigger man in this whole scenario, because you and I were over here,
and
we were over here just like, oh, this is a second strike, where I can't believe he did this again, and I bet you they are thinking that, but at the same time,
I mean, if you get a year's suspension,
and so it's like that's amazing that they would continue to exercise that type of trust and, or I guess faith, that he will be able to come back and get things in order to then put that trust back in and have a really good team chemistry, so I'm if they're willing and excited to have him back, then why not us, anyway, so that little tangent thing over. So I was saying we have 6 games. You're not going to see the full team until probably toward the end of the preseason. But what things do you want the Avalanche to have pretty much polished off, perfected, whatever you want to call it, going right into game 1 of the regular season?
I just hope that we can see them go in with some kind of rough plan, that if this guy is on the roster, then this, as far as power play and penalty kill, I feel like those are just 2 areas that we need. They've been such strengths and weaknesses of ours at various times, and it would be nice to practice and play and find out who might stand out as excelling in that we may not have expected, just to cycle them all through to see who works for what in many different variations prior to having to test it out come regular season.
I think that's a really good point. Is kind of into one of my points is team health, right? I want their conditioning more than anything to be top notch, because all these injuries just start going off like fireworks toward the beginning of the season, and then it's not some of them they're getting knocked out for the season, other it's like week to week, and so it's like I want these guys to be just ready to get hit, basically, and to hit others, and stuff like that. So conditioning for me is going to be one that I'm like, you got to have that. You got to be tough by game 1, because you have 6 games to do it. It's just hard to watch, like I think of the oh my goodness, who was it that he played one shift with the Avalanche, took one hit, broke his collarbone. Oh my gosh, Bowers, Shane Bowers, wasn't it? I
Oh,
can't
in
remember.
Montreal now?
I think so. Yeah, but it just reminded me. I was like, boy, you got to be ready to go, otherwise you're gonna have a.
Oh my gosh. Now, okay, sorry.
Wasn't it Bowers? Anyways, but that's one of them. So the other one for me that I'm like, again, because you're coming into these games, it's early in the season, you're still going to have some kind of rust, so to speak. People are going to be committing penalties, right?
Mhm.
Well, I want to be able to take advantage of those penalties, right? And so I want to see the penalty power play, just firing on all cylinders right out of the gate. Just game one, I could expect, honestly, 100%, whether it's 1 for
Mhm.
1, 4 for 4, like you
Especially
got to
when
have
our
a power.
stats last year in the power play were so bad. I think there was one point where I texted
Exactly.
and said, "Can we just decline power plays? Like, can we opt
You
out of
might as
them?
well.
I
You
feel like
seriously
football.
might as well.
No thanks."
And that's the tough thing, is because power play, almost like winning and losing, it's like this pendulum, right?
Mhm.
If it is so hard to get your power play back to scoring every single game
Ask
or
the
producing
Penguins.
well every single game. Exactly. So that's why I'm like, you got to start with on the right note with that power play. Otherwise, you're going to be spending at least 2, 3, 4 weeks trying to get that thing back up to what it needed to be from the
Yeah.
beginning. And those could be very, very important game shifting, like momentum shifting
Mhm.
goals, or,
Especially when you
possession.
consider it feels like we're as fast as we've ever been, which the faster your team is, generally, the more penalties are going to be committed against.
Exactly. So to me, that's my biggest thing is to take advantage of the people that are shaking off the cobwebs within the first couple of weeks,
Mhm.
take advantage of these power plays when you have them. Obviously, I don't, you're not going to score on every single one, though. I think with this setup, our team, you could do that. But you
Mhm.
gotta be able to do something, because it's those power play goals that really can shift momentum back into your favor, right? I mean, just talk to San Jose against Vegas in Game 7. They took 4 goals in 5 minutes. So it's possible, and that's one thing that I really, really would like to see, just firing all cylinders right out of the gate. I don't know if there's anything else, Britt, that you wanted to add. If not, we can kind of jump into our next topic.
Not particularly.
Okay, perfect. So last week we talked about goalies and kind of what they need to do in order to have a solid season, a very productive season, so to
Yeah.
speak. This time I want to go around and talk about the defense. Particularly, we'll just go with the 3 lines. So Makar and Taves. I think. Do we want to talk about them line by line or player by player?
I think line by line's good. I
Line
think
by
we've
line.
relatively established. I was trying to look. Have you heard? It's just hard because we don't know who that 4th pair is going to be. I mean, it's totally up in the air right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the first 3 lines are pretty well established.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. So let's talk about that first one then. Obviously, that would be Devon Taves and Cale Makar. Now, this is like your dream pair right here, because for crying out
Right.
loud, it's easily one of the best defensive pairings in the league,
Mm-hmm.
right? However, last year, and I'll kind of kick us off with this, there were a lot of these rinky-dinky clearing chances or really soft passes or just fumblings around with the puck that for some reason it's just like, this is just so not like you guys to do this, that you got to clean that up, because I found myself too many times saying, Kale, what was that?
The most
Like, that was a
egregious
giveaway.
net front mistakes, which I've said it before. I do think that when you are as elite as they are, you're operating on such smaller margins for mistake that when you do make a mistake, it looks so much worse, because they're threading the needle with passes a lot tighter, taking a lot smaller paths, a lot more dangerous paths, because generally they're successful. But when they do get burned, they get burned bad. I think my number one thing that I'm praying for with them is that we will see some of those be eliminated simply due to being less overworked. So, I mean, that feels like the simplest way to eliminate some of it. And hopefully, with the power that we have added in defense and in forward, we can also see them with a little more cohesion, because they probably were left at times last year making the wrong play because someone was in the wrong spot. Someone didn't understand. I was just listening today. It sounds like guys, who was it that we traded to Seattle right at the beginning of the year?
That was Tatar.
I mean, there was conversations about him not understanding the breakout like months into. So ideally, those are the two things that I see that can clean up a ton of that without them having to change literally a single thing about their game. They'll just be inherent with higher quality and less work.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And like, again, if that was a Cale Makar bad season, right? Like that just really is a testament to just how good of a player he is.
World, but 100%. To us,
100%. But
it was maddening at times, and that's
exactly. Like there were so many times where we're like, Cale, you never do this. Like, what are you doing?
And right? I'm still a firm believer that there was something wrong. I think that he was had some kind of injury. So who knows? And like we said before, Devontae's had a baby mid-season. You cannot tell me that's bad for your game.
That was going to be one of the things where it's like he had his mind. I don't want to say his priorities elsewhere. It's like obviously he always has 100% in the game,
right?
But this time he might.
But yeah, we have to remember that there's still people with whole lives going on.
Entire lives, and
they still have,
Yeah, I think you're right. And that was kind of the on ice translation, because to him, or to me, I should say, Devon was always that cleanup type defenseman where he plays a solid game of hockey, all around the rink. But when it came to those rebounds or being in the right placement, especially that cup-winning year, he was there when key moments were needed for a boost, for a momentum shift, for whatever it was. He was right there for some cleanup goals, a wide open shot, whatever it was. Last year, it just kind of seemed like that faded a little bit.
Yeah,
so I kind of want to pick that back up. He's got a nice new contract. So, excuse me, I'm excited to see kind of how this duo goes back to their original form. Okay, next one. This is going to be Samuel Girard and Josh Manson. So your second pairing. This one is going to, I don't want to necessarily say sway things, but this one's probably going to be one of your more important ones.
Right.
Just because to me, we know Girard and Manson's potential, right? We know what they're capable of.
They both have ridiculously high ceilings and ridiculously low floors.
That's exactly it. Like we've seen Samuel Girard at his lowest of lows, where literally our own fan base is calling for his head for him to get on the trading block and just go. Right? Like
Manson at his worst is, I would rather literally put a cone with a fan blowing on it to push it across the guys. Like when he is bad, he is so horrifying to watch. But I do think that his good outweighs his bad. His bad was generally in the midst of injury issues. And it feels like this should be the healthiest he's been. He was healthy going into the playoffs last year, got a nice long off season. That Seattle series was, people were ready to hang him after that, which we figured out after that he was really injured. And that kind of is just one of the things that you take with Josh Manson, which is probably why we bolstered our defense a lot.
Yeah. And this, because Josh Manson, there were a lot of times last year where I was looking at him and he was bringing the puck into the zone and he was like the first one through. It's like, dude, your defense, like, relax, So it's like he's got that get up and go kind of mentality, right? But there's also kind of like what you said, where it's like a cone with a fan on it could have done a better job, So it's the inconsistency that they are both that they have both done in the past, I should say. They're not always like that all the time. Because Girard, I know he's a great goal scorer. His puck handling and his ice movement is phenomenal. Josh Manson, he's a really big body, so he knows how to get in the way of things and disrupt things. Those are their strong suits.
And then randomly just puts on a show-stopping goal. It's so wild. He is just such a bruiser, but he's had some of the most tantalizing goals that we've seen in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I love Josh Manson. I pray to God he has a healthy year to justify finishing the end of this contract, and I don't have to listen to people bitching about Manson and Gerard. Because
There you
it
go.
feels like Gerard is kind of off the chopping block for being the scapegoat, and Manson kind of took that over for a while, but they came out and said that they took a lot of calls on people wanting Josh Manson this summer, and they had no intention to trade him, and it wasn't even a consideration. So they do value Josh Manson, and he gets paid. He got a 4x4, didn't he? I mean, even come next year, that is for a second pairing defenseman, $4 million is not a lot of money, even if you're only getting 2/3 of a season out of him.
Yeah.
He's a playoff performer. So as long as he's healthy going into the playoffs, I don't care.
And that's what I want to see out of the two of them. So if I were to kind of say what I'd like to see from them for this season, it would be to shore up their overallness. And what I mean by that is, like, for Sam Girard, it's shoot it. Just take some shots every now and again, right? It's not going to hurt anyone. We know he's a pass first kind of guy, and he does really good passing. But there's a lot of times where it's like, maybe he should have taken that shot, or maybe he should have done this. Maybe, as far as the offensive, taking a more initiative when it comes to the offensive production. I get it. He's a defenseman, but Cale Makar has
especially if you have a healthy Josh Manson who can they can cover better for one another and trust.
Exactly.
It's been really hard it seems like at any point our defensemen have all been paired with someone who is more of a liability. We saw we didn't really get to see much out of Sean Walker because he was paired up with Jack Johnson, and you can't really do much when you can't rely on your defenseman to have the foot speed to catch up for you. So it does affect your game. So hopefully at this point, if everyone is healthy and on more of an even playing field, we can see them take more of those liberties and going up and pushing the offense a little bit harder.
Exactly. And that's kind of my thing is what I'd like to see is for this tandem to be the best defensive tandem on the ice at any given time when facing another second pairing.
Especially, and I'll say this a million times, you take Sam Girard, put him on almost any other team, and he could be justified as a first line defenseman, especially any team in the bottom. I mean, just so many teams, he would be a first line defenseman. So
he really would.
Ruling for other teams because there's a lot of big drop offs from the first pair to the second pair. And if those two can be playing cohesively, healthy, and at their best, there's no answer to it because every team has to put their first pair against Makar and Tays. You cannot try to split them up or match lines or try to cover for giving them, you know what I mean, trying to cover both first and second line with just one first line, because you absolutely have to have your best on Makar and Tays. There's just no question about it. So that leaves Girard and Manson at an advantage because they're always going to be paired up with the other team's second best, third best. They're never going to have a mismatch and have it to go up against the first pair regularly on another team.
Yep, you're exactly right. And that's why this is a really good opportunity for Manson and Girard to then go out and it's our second pairing versus theirs. And with the skills that they have and improvements that they make and stuff like that, I want that pairing to then go out and beat everyone else's second pairing because, like you said, they're all going to be focused on
dynamic both of them are in various areas.
You got a guy that's 7 feet tall. You have another guy that's 4 feet tall. It's like I can't think of a better defensive pairing. You know?
Right. And and they're both surprising or unpredictable. They both have an offensive side that even we are surprised by sometimes. I still am in awe of Sammy G's skating abilities and his ability to move the puck and change directions. I mean, it's a good way to be if you're going to be only as tall as me. So he makes up for a lot. And I think that he can catch a lot of NHL teams off guard still, even with video on him and stuff. I think that he's always going to have an advantage being so sneaky and sly. And same with Josh Manson. Dude is just it's so weird to me because he's got the tiniest head and a really small face. But then when you see him next to Katie Goss or something, the man is an absolute moose of a man. He's almost built like a swimmer. He's got some of the hits he laid. Did you hear the quote from Pierre-Edouard Bellemare today?
I didn't know.
He said that he almost retired because of an injury. Oh my gosh, I gotta find it. It's so funny. And I was trying to think, I was wrecking my brain, and I figured out it was a hit from Josh Manson, I believe. He said,
Was this back when he was on the Ducks, or?
No, when he was playing in Tampa. So PTO
okay.
Pierre-Edouard Bellemare says he considered retiring after the Cup loss due to stating a knee injury against you MFers. And he said the full thing, like against you guys, you MFers. And I was thinking about it. Josh Manson absolutely wrecked him in game. It was either game 5 or 6. And we've seen Josh Manson lay a couple hits, and we've seen him have a couple fights that like we almost like lost interest in what's his face? Who's our big boy our big pretty
Curtis
boy?
McDermott?
Yeah. Curtis McDermott probably was like, whoa, what was I made for? Yeah, we didn't even hardly think about it. I mean, Josh Manson,
he's gone toe to toe with the best of them in the league. Yeah. I think Delorier, Reeves, Ben
can never get. I don't care if Josh Manson walked out and just like farted on the ice and walked back and never did another thing positive.
That was the highlight right there.
It was enough for me to love him. He will be a legend with the Avs. I don't care that he was on the Ducks for a billion. However, I love Josh Manson. But when you have that pair, it also empowers Girard to play bigger than he is, because I think people know that Josh Manson is a quiet terror. And he's not always that quiet, but when people talk about the big bruisers in the league, he doesn't get brought up. He's not up there with a Delorier. And I think part of it is because he maintains enough like offensive prowess that he doesn't have nothing to offer other than fighting, to where it becomes such a main focus. But we know, and the players on the ice know, the teams that they're playing, they know that you don't want to cross him.
Yeah, and Sammy G can hold his own. I mean, he's not a pipsqueak per se. He's just on the smaller side, but he'll check you. And I noticed there was a few times last season where he was kind of starting to get a little scrappy, and I was like, yeah, I kind of like it. He kind of had that Logan O'Connor,
especially with his like yucky little beard.
I know it was so fun.
You were in a wife beater beating people.
So fun. Okay, and then the last line. This one's going to be our rotating wheel, so to speak. So we'll throw 3 players in this one. This is going to be your Oliver Shillington, Calvin DeHaan, and Eric Brandstrom line.
I was doing some Googling. Shillington, did I send you that video? I didn't realize what a poor note Shillington left Calgary on. I know that he had 2 years off in the player assistance program. I was reading he had family problems. He had some mental health. It was not like substance abuse. It was mental health stuff. He's completely cut contacts with his parents. He's Swedish, so he's from a long ways away. He's just had a lot of emotional struggles, and Calgary had signed him to like a 4x4. So they were paying him like $4 million a year. And I found a video, and it was a very heartfelt, honestly kind of justifiable disdain on this podcast for him, because he left after Calgary had supported him, and he was a really high draft pick. He had a lot. He came back and played only a handful of games, played pretty well. And I think that they all anticipated that he would take a really team-friendly deal, but there must have been something, because we're only paying him like a little bit over $1 million, aren't we?
Something like that. Yeah. I'm like, not a ton.
But yeah, so they left on a really cold note, and it sounds like he was, sorry, I'll get to the point, but he was like a little bit flaky, not just not reporting and not showing up, maybe not communicating very well throughout this player assistance stint. Something with communication was amiss. And apparently he hasn't reported to camp or been in any of the extracurricular skates. It sounds like no one has laid an eye on him. A lot of people in the hopeful route are discussing that it's probably just visa issues, but it seems really weird that they haven't talked about it publicly at all. So hopefully he's coming. And it's just visa issues, because I mean, he was playing in Canada. He's from Sweden, so there might be some funky stuff going on. I just wish that they would come out and say something, because it sounds like he does have a history after his player assistance program stuff of maybe, I don't want to say flaky, you know what I mean, but maybe being a little flaky. I don't know.
This is according to Jared Bednar. This was just from a few hours ago. And even Evan Rowell posted on this. It says Oliver Shillington had a tough immigration day and his gear is stuck in France. That's why he didn't skate with the group.
Wouldn't you think that they would have a whole brand spanking new? That's really good though, because
but I guess you are used to your own equipment, so I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, well, that makes me super happy because as of earlier today, it wasn't established, and I was like, "Oh God, please tell me he didn't go home and
sounds like it's an immigration." Yeah, I think visa and equipment being in the wrong country.
Yes.
So that's
so yeah. Now that we are comfortable in knowing that he will be joining us, he is like, I consider him kind of a Jonathan Drouin light. He has less of a Jonathan Drouin. At least did have a small track record of being successful. Shillington, I don't believe, has had nearly any stretch of time within the NHL. I don't think more than a handful of games at a time. But very, very high aspirations at first. It's so hard to know how all three guys that you mentioned. So we've got Shillington, DeHaan,
and Brandstrom.
And they're all like
I don't know.
I would say DeHaan, short of health, if he weren't a health liability, we would anticipate him being an absolute mainstay. Which I feel like he will till he can't. You know, it sounds like you're guaranteed to miss about a third of the season for him. And I really feel, I'll just keep saying this, I feel like we're at that Tampa Bay 2 years ago kind of thing where it's like, we don't give a shit about the regular season. We're just getting to the playoffs.
Make it to the playoffs, yeah.
Right. If we need to do, what's the term, like maintenance day, load management, I don't care. Neil McCarthy needs to take the last half of the year off, and
there you go.
Without him, to me, the playoffs is all that matters, and that's why I found that the older I'm getting, the more I value dudes who show up in the playoffs. That's might be part of my like deep love for Josh Manson, or my disdain for other players. I won't make. I don't want to hurt Allie's feelings, so I won't bring up other dudes that don't show up. But yeah, none of these guys, I don't think Brandstrom or Shillington, a lot of these projects that we have, I don't know. We have no idea what we're going to get from them. So it's going to be in flux. And that's if some kid, I don't know how we're going to manage bringing them in at first, but that's if one of the kids doesn't beat them out before they even get a chance to prove themselves. I mean, imagine Brandstrom doesn't even get some time on the ice because these kids are so hungry.
Yeah, that's very true. So for me, this one's tough because it's three people, but they're all brand new to the team.
Right.
And you're gonna go out and create a pairing with that.
Yeah.
Right. So if that isn't what ends up happening, instead of something where I'm guessing it's going to be like Gerard and Shillington are on one, and then Mance, just to kind of bring them up to speed, maybe. But let's just assume it is according to the line projections. We'll assume it's Brandstrom, Shillington, DeHaan, two of those three. My only thing is basically, as I love them, they're great people, and I say this with as much love and respect as I can. Don't screw up our system.
Especially, and that's just it, is defenses kind of we have a good line our defense. Like we got our dudes and then we got our defense. Like our dudes
have a good system put in place for defense.
Especially when you consider our cup winning year, our defense was rock
solid. That was rock solid.
Holes.
And I don't question Calvin or Oliver or Eric's ability to be defense. Like they're NHL players. They know what they're doing. But it's about fitting into the system and making sure that you have it understood. Because again, like I said, preseason, you have 6 games basically to get Bednar's system figured out.
Right. Because
So
being good isn't enough. You
that's
have
not
to
enough.
be smart
Yep,
enough, and
exactly.
they
Exactly.
have proven time and time again that they would rather take somebody with maybe a little bit less all-star to them, but is a little more pliable and
Yep,
at least
exactly.
willing to learn or inherently fits in the system better. I
Yep.
do think that person will be prioritized every time. Look at
100%.
guys like Pierre-Luc Dubois, like incredible hockey players that literally cannot fit in anywhere because they're absolutely incapable of fitting in a roster. I mean, and that's where you might find some of those young guys, their hunger and desire and desperation can push guys to have quite the year. So
exactly. So that's going to be my big thing. If this third pairing is going to be successful, they have to catch the slipstream as it's going, because that stream cannot slow down. Otherwise, you are in big trouble and you're leaving your goalies high and dry, letting things go past like this.
Yeah.
It's going to be really important for them to get that system figured out and things to gel very quickly.
That's what scares me to start with is we know that Georgie's all about the vibes. And if we go just dorking around with the defensive lines and leave, Georgie's going to have a tough beginning of the season. There is just and he's either going to flourish or flounder. I feel like there's nothing in between. He's going to be pissed off when he's confused, but we've also seen him thrive in those situations also. So just pray to God that these guys, hopefully being guys who have all had some turbulence throughout their career, are guys that can help keep Georgie sound and positive. You know what I mean? Keep him grounded, kind of.
I think that's exactly right. And anything that Georgiev can take for aid, it goes a long way, right? And this third pairing has the opportunity to take less pressure away from the goaltender. So it's just got to be, you got to know that you got to do it quick.
It's going to be just as dire if Onanen is in net too, because we don't want to drown him, to start with. Because if you kill a goalie's confidence in their first, 10 games of their one-way brand new contract, that's a one-way contract, that's pretty scary. And a lot of goalies won't recover from that.
Yep. That's 100%. So it's going to be an interesting year defensively. Obviously, we have a lot of high expectations for them to get back to kind of what we know and expect from them, especially after winning a cup.
I would say other than Makar and Taze, don't get comfortable with any of it. None of it.
Yeah, and I could honestly see Bednar doing some line switching to see what works, if chemistry is better one way. Like he'll always experiment with everyone, right? Yeah. But if that is going to be your finished line pairing, that's kind of, at least for our expectation from what needs to happen to get a good
question of, are we going to carry an extra forward and go short one on D, or carry an extra defenseman and go short one on forward? There's a lot of possibilities and a lot of arrangements that would call for that either being necessary or desirable. We may have to do it in order to maintain one of the young guys on our roster, with the anticipation that someone's going to get hurt and we're going to need them, and we don't want them to go through roster or through waivers. So we might have to go short one, and we might have one extra D who doesn't play a whole lot. I mean,
that might be it. And that might end up being what happens, because we just talked about 3 on a 2-man pairing. So that might have to be what's it.
Bednar has any fear in only running 3 defensive lines. I mean, there was so many times that we probably could have done without the 4th line at all on any of it. You know what I mean? Yeah, he leans very hard on his premier players, which we've seen it do us good and we've seen it do us bad. So hopefully we can find a balance.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. But I think other than that, though, I mean, I'm expecting a good, just solid defense. There's just these things that we think can really improve.
I think all in all, it's going to shake out and be good, where we have so many different little holes filled and people that fill holes that aren't even empty yet, but it feels like they've really planned for all of the stupid little problems that we have encountered and can anticipate to encounter. it's just going to be letting it shake out. We're just going to need a lot of, I mean, if you are not somebody that likes constant shakeups, I would probably shut your TV off until Nichushkin can return in November 15th.
There you go.
Because it feels like as long as we get either or in Nichushkin or Landeskog back, we can kind of handle some flux in the other one. But yeah, I don't know.
Have to see.
It's going to be crazy up and down, forwards and defense. I don't think that there's anything solidified. I don't think, even short of Nathan McKinnon being on the first line, I don't think anything else is guaranteed. I
think that's probably a pretty accurate statement, honestly.
Yeah.
So just have to see. Okay, well, I think that's gonna take us all the way to the station here, Britt. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I'm ready for bed.
Awesome. I am too, man. I'm pretty tired. So thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast. Again, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT network so you can get
Sorry. Did you see the thing with Mikko Rantanen? They interviewed him about his contract and he said, I want a cup here. I love living here. Why would I want to leave? So I think that we should all, I know that some people are getting uptight about the contract, but it sounds like the contract is coming. He hasn't been in town that long. So Mikko Rantanen is not going anywhere, no matter when his contract.
And that is music to my ears.
Yeah,
music to my ears.
Irreplaceable.
Finding
a guy that takes a spot like that without needing the spotlight is just irreplaceable. But yeah, I figured we should probably throw that out there.
There you go.
Sleep better tonight, friends. Mikko Rantanen.
Now we can all go to bed nice and happy. And that's, I mean, if Moose is staying, I'm always happy for it. Anyway, so if you want to follow the MHRT network, you can follow them on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, hockey's back. And we're going to see the Avalanche take to the ice, at least in preseason form, for the next couple of weeks, 6 games.
Yes.
And the next thing you know it's just going to be regular season, baby. Oh, that just sounds so good.
Are we going to get to watch for free a lot of it?
I think
between the Ducks and everybody else who gets to watch their teams for free, we get a mooch off of it. So I'm excited.
There you go. Okay, with that being said, we hope you guys have an enjoyable weekend. Fall is in the air. That means hockey is back, and it's just everything's just right in the world. So with that being said, have a good night, everyone. And as always, go Avs go.
No west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what this is